share my screen.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Was there anything? I've been kind of out of the loop since on this schedule. But did anything occur after that earthquake that we had? When was it, last week?
Was it last? I believe it was last week. It was 2 weeks ago Saturday.
Right.
Yeah. Anything as far as
Any repercussions for Oahu? No, right?
no? That's a good question to get us started. So Tehani, did you and Sean feel it?
Well, we live third floor, so wasn't too was a tiny shake, but not a like nothing like we did that one.
Yeah. Did it? Was it enough of a shake for you to question? Is that an earthquake or is that just something else?
I just sum it up to the neighbors downstairs in there sliding. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Anyone else? Anyone else on?
This place kind of shakes with.
Oh, okay. Anyone else on have any experience with two Saturdays ago? First off, did you feel it? And second, was your thought earthquake or was your thought something else?
I didn't feel anything, so I didn't have any thoughts.
Okay, thanks, Ann. Rodney?
My dog, he didn't go nuts, but he was very active and nervous. I didn't feel it anywhere, but after we found out and said, okay, now we understand why he was acting the way he was, possibly.
Okay. And Wayne and Lynette?
No feeling.
No, we didn't feel it.
Okay. That's I guess that's okay, but that's kind of curious. I was sitting in my car parked at Times by Pahu, and my mom frequently likes to when she's done shopping, she likes to knock on the back of the car. So I open the car, and I thought it was her pushing the car, or then I thought somebody else was pushing the car, nudging it or something. There's a lot of homeless in the area. But go ahead, Tiani.
Your trunk.
Yeah.
No, my mom does the same thing. She hits the back of my car to open my trunk.
Yeah. And when I didn't see anybody around the car, I looked at the bushes and the trees, and it wasn't wind. Nothing was moving. So I didn't chalk it up to anything. But the inclination was, let me go check social media or the internet. I opened Google on my phone and I typed in Hawaii earthquake, and ironically, there was right at the top of that Google search was other people reporting earthquakes around Hawaii. It wasn't anything official from USGS, but it was just enough people were doing the Google search that it was populating that people are feeling an earthquake around Hawaii. Then my next inclination was, let me go check the USGS or the United States Geological Survey website. And in fact, there was a earthquake. And then I went to Facebook and some of the other, first assumption was that it was Hawaii Island. So go to the Facebook pages of folks I know from Hawaii Island, and yeah, it was something serious for them. There's a lot of videos. I think even it got out through the media, actual shaking, actual stuff falling down. So it was pretty bad and strong enough for folks on Kauai to feel. So yeah, good conversation all around. Can you folks see the slides?
Yeah.
So again, tonight's theme, the Great Hawaii ShakeOut Island Preparedness Group Workshop. Today is October 20th, 2021. So, generically, just talking about the science of earthquakes, what are earthquakes? I know everybody here probably knows this already, but the Earth's crust is, it's not a solid layer, right? It's a bunch of tectonic plates, and this is kind of an illustration of the different tectonic plates. Hawaii sits here. We're in the middle of the Pacific, kind of floating on this tectonic plate here that comes down to New Zealand, comes all the way to the southeastern Pacific, around South America, cuts across North America, Alaska to Japan. We are no stranger, even in the last decade, to earthquakes from across the Pacific. You know, this ring of fire associated with a lot of volcanic activity, but also a lot of earthquakes around this area. I think as 2011 Chile earthquake or Japan, Tohoku earthquake in Japan, and there was another around the same time, I think 2014 or something, one in Chile. We're always worried about the Aleutian Islands. So the science of earthquakes, we understand that it's where two tectonic plates meet. So where two tectonic plates are pushing against each other, it's divergent, right? Not really critical that we remember the scientific terms, but two tectonic plates will obviously disperse energy, and that's divergent. Convergent is where one tectonic plate may be going under another. And the transform plate boundary where plates will rub against each other. So where two plates meet creates this force of energy, or creates a void of energy, or a void like the San Andreas fault, where two tectonic plates are pulling away from each other. Obviously, that's a massive landmass that's separating, and different parts can have volcanoes. Like we know the Hawaiian island chain that extends all the way to the northwestern Pacific Islands was formed through these undersea volcanoes. Anybody else?
Hey,
Just
Pono, I have a quick question.
yes.
So was there, when your research, because I wasn't able to research recently thanks to this time schedule difference thing, but was there any effects because it was Big Island on Helena slump? Did it affect anything yet? Because that's very unstable landmass, yeah.
Yeah, from my reading, other than an earthquake, I didn't see anything. I think it was centralized. Anybody else can fill in, but I think it was centralized in the Puna area. So it was Big Island. It wasn't Loihi or the island to the southeast of forming Big Island. Just a separate kind of personal opinion. I subscribe to the Pacific Disaster Center (PDC) app on my phone. It's called Disaster Alert for iOS. I don't know what it is for Android, but it's the Pacific Disaster Center's app. The Pacific Disaster Center is located on the island of Maui. It's really a collaboration of all the agencies that do all this disaster reporting, alerting, notifications, planning stuff. I get maybe 100 push notifications a day about different things happening across the globe. The app will report things like flooding in India, and earthquake over here, and volcanic activity over there, or really everything happening around the world. It's curious to pay attention to all the volcanic activity happening around the Pacific, specifically the Ring of Fire. Because something happening across the Pacific could drastically affect us, right? Earthquake in Chile can generate a tsunami in, we'll talk about it later, but 10 to 11 hours to Hawaii, or something to Japan. I think it's curious that we've got an active volcano right now, and I think it's curious that we've got a lot of seismic activity now. And I think everything adds up to lead to something. That's why at the end of the day we always stay prepared. I don't know if there's anything more to say about that. Sorry if I'm rambling. Anybody else have anything they want to add?
I was talking to my sister-in-law up in Mililani, and I was just reiterating the facts that go bags, have your stuff ready if you're going to shelter in place, and if you're going to go, it's an all hazards type of process. But when you're dealing with an earthquake, you have to worry about transportation more so than, in her case, tsunamis in Mililani. Not exactly. But high winds and road conditions and all the beesia trees up there that are still there on the roads, still there waiting to be toppled. And how do you coordinate that with your rest of her family up there in Mililani as well as down here in Kapolei. Yeah, have a plan, have your communications plan going. Same thing with the, yeah. I basically reiterated the fire plan and every other plan we've always talked about. Plan it and try to prepare it, plan it, and maybe practice it as best as possible. At some point, she just tuned me out, but that's okay.
Yeah, bottom line is just be prepared. Part of that is knowing the hazards, so understanding how earthquakes work and tsunamis work and hurricanes and all that stuff. And Rodney said it, albizia trees and things like that, they'll fall over. It doesn't just take high winds from a hurricane. It could be an earthquake already disrupting something that's not stable, bringing down some trees, and where the folks in Mililani may believe that they're safe from tsunami. There are all the kind of effects, right? A lot of our utility services are along the coastline that are going to be impacted by tsunami. So what's going to happen when Kahe power plant goes down because of tsunami? Our folks in Mililani are going to have power. So it really affects all of us. So, yeah. So we'll move on. Just a curious thought here for the amateur radio operators, where we've been trained recently to understand what the donut is. And the donut is that critical period between after an earthquake occurs and about 30 minutes after. The USGS calls that the donut. And that's the reporting time where they're doing all their calculations to figure out the epicenter of the earthquake. But folks in the real world like us, if you go to the USGS website, they have a DYFI. Did you feel it? Oh, wait. Yeah, DYFI, did you feel it? And the amateur radio folks have been practicing this, where we submit via amateur radio this "Did you feel it" form. And a lot of the questions are subjective. First, it asks, what your location is. Then some of the other fields are, well, was it strong enough to throw you off your feet? Was it strong enough to make a bookcase fall over, or it was just minor shaking? Kind of stuff like that, where all of that adds up, and they understand the effects of that earthquake depending on your location. So the reason why I'm sharing this image is because of that donut period where science may never predict earthquakes, but what happens is there's a seismograph spread out all over the world, and based on the magnitude and the time, and you can find out more information at this link. And what I'll do is share the slides with all of you, so you can just click on the hyperlinks and go read up more if you'd like. Based on the intensity and the time, they calculate this radius from that particular seismograph. And just like a GPS, it takes 3 readings to triangulate where that location was. And that's how they figure that out. And by completing this "Did you feel it" report via amateur radio, or if you can go to the website and fill it out, you can provide more ground data on maybe somebody here felt it, but it didn't throw them off their feet, but somebody here, they were thrown off their feet. So obviously the earthquake might have been stronger, closer to that person than it was the other person. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not the expert, but I just wanted to share this material so you guys can go reference it on your own. Again, this is really the part of knowing the hazard, right? So in order to prepare, you got to know what to look for. These are the 7 steps to earthquake safety as identified by the Earthquake Country Alliance, which is one of the organizations behind this great ShakeOut concept. And those 3 things that you can do to be prepared for earthquakes is secure your space. I really don't hear a lot of folks in Hawaii talk about it. I know it's predominantly something that happens in Japan or California, or maybe Chile, or places where they regularly have earthquakes, is actually securing your appliances and things, right? Bolting down or bracketing down your shelves, or not just hanging your TV, but making sure your TV is secure on a wall if that's how you've got it, or just surveying your area right now. If you have to look around where you're at, if the earth started to shake right now, what things are going to fall? So considering that and how you can secure your space. Plan to be safe. So what is your really, at the end of the day, it's plan, right? How are you going to plan? Organizing your emergency supplies, or like Rodney said, and we always say, having your stuff ready to go. Minimize your financial hardship. So if you were to be impacted by damage, do you have all of your important documents in one safe place that you can go back and say, hey, these are my insurance documents for my home or my car or whatever, so on and so forth. Having it on a flash drive, or having your important documents on in a cloud. This step 5 is actually knowing what to do if an earthquake occurs. So the mantra is drop, cover, and hold on, and we'll come back to that. Step 6 is improve your safety. So coming over here after earthquakes by evacuating if necessary, helping the injured, and preventing further injuries or damage. And then step 7 is reconnect and restore. So following an earthquake, daily life by reconnecting with others, repairing damage, and rebuilding communities. Again, I apologize if I don't have all the information, but this is just to if you haven't already looked into it, these are some available resources that you can put in your preparedness books or just save in your knowledge bank. Again, these slides will get to you, and you can click on all the hyperlinks to go access all this material.
On step 4, I can tell you, from my experience, that I had to really convince my wife, she's not here at the moment, but she backed me up on it, about having the physical paperwork for our mortgage, our insurance, our wills. Having that on a flash drive is fantastic, and it's a great secondary. But if you have to deal with FEMA or other agencies, that hard copy of your paperwork for your house, your home, whatever, that is really important. And having that ready to go, I've been able to make duplicate copies of it now so that we have it in a waterproof bag and it's ready to go if we have to take it out. But that took time to convince her that we needed to do this. And that's part of what we're going to do tomorrow, is take our paperwork out and get ready to go. Over.
Rodney, I don't know if this is a loaded question, but how much does it cost you, like you said, to put together this packet of all your important documents?
Well, I told her we can't do this at the home, and we're talking 300, 400 pages of documents when you include everything from mortgage to insurance to wills to stuff. So it wound up costing me about $20, and that's fine. But putting on a flash drive, that took a little bit more, and it came out to about $45 overall. But I had my nephew do some of it, so that worked out great.
Okay, this might be another different, interesting question, but so I do want to eventually, whether it's a member of our group, Rodney, or somebody else, I don't know who that is, maybe somebody from the DCCA, what is State Commerce and Consumer Affairs, or whoever the expert is on important documents in preparation for disaster. My question is, if you had to go, so you made copies, right? And obviously some copies are certified copies and some just might be photocopies or whatever. Do you go the extra step in making sure that you have duplicates of an actual certified copy?
You need to. You need to have at least one, preferably 2 or 3 copies, because you're going to be dealing with multiple agencies and they all want their piece of your pie or your copies of your paperwork. So if you've got to have that stuff, it takes a while to do it. And if you can get it done and bear the brunt of the financial burden of, say, $100 to get the certified certification, then definitely, I really recommend it. And the Department of Commerce, there's a good place. There's also the Kapuna, the seniors department for whatever it's called. They have a good website focusing on supporting seniors preparing themselves for disaster.
Okay, thank you. And I know we kind of bounce around on topics and subjects, but disaster isn't just the major stuff like hurricane, tsunami. disaster or emergency could be something personal, like the loss of a loved one. Um, and I know this is something that I need to do because my mother takes care of a lot of things. I'm fortunate that she's still around and she takes care of a lot of the household documents and things. And if something happened to her, I don't know where to begin. So that's something that goes beyond just preparing for disasters, but preparing for life is having those documents ready and available, stored in a safe place somehow. Rodney?
And that goes with your advanced medical directives, anything dealing in a situation where you have family members or yourself that has to go to a hospital in an emergency. Right now, COVID is a very critical issue about how you're treated. And so having that advanced directive and any medical power of attorneys, those things need to be considered as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So 7 steps to earthquake safety. And so we're not actually going to do this unless you really, really want to. So let me back up. And so the theme of tonight is the Great Hawaii Shakeout. International Shakeout Day, this is an international program, is on 10/21, so October 21st at 10:21 a.m. And this happens annually, if not on that date, typically on the third Thursday of October every year. Whether you're a business, a school, a family, or an individual, you can participate. You can do a quick search of the Great Hawaii Shakeout, or I did send a link in the email. That is the Hawaii region specific dashboard from the international website, but you can go on the international website and find the same information. This is really just to promote earthquake awareness. And for coastal communities like ours, adding in the benefit of discussing tsunami, because that is a real effect of earthquakes. So the basic thing that you can, but I should say that you can participate in the Great Hawaii Shakeout or International Shakeout Day, I believe any day throughout the month of October. What you do is you go to the website and you can register yourself, your family, your organization, as many people as you want, to register to say that, hey, you did this exercise, you dropped, covered, and held on, or there's a whole other list of stuff that you can do by hosting a workshop like this, or relooking at our emergency plans, or relooking at our goal kits. So there's a whole package of stuff that we could do based off of this, but this is really the basic is to perform this exercise. So again, if you really want to, you can do it. I'll do it when you're not looking. But that is the mantra, and we love our mantras to remember things. So that's in the event of an earthquake, drop, cover, and hold on. All right, drop down to your knees. Maybe you might have mobility issues or whatnot. The website also has great information about folks that might be in a wheelchair or a walker or a cane. But the basic idea is to get low, protect your head, right? And try to find some kind of cover, like a piece of furniture. The old, well, let me just stand in the door frame. That is not the mantra we're selling today. It's try to get under a piece of sturdy furniture and hold on, because in an extreme earthquake, you may be holding your head and safe, but that piece of furniture might be bouncing around and move away. So you want to hold on to it, right? So drop, cover, hold on. Everybody repeat after me. Drop, cover,
Drop, cover, and hold on.
and hold on. Or hold on to the table, or not your neck. Don't choke. Okay, we just passed our the Great Hawaii Shakeout. We did our bit. Thanks for coming. Now we'll continue. Drop, cover, and hold on. So I do want to, I asked it earlier, but I do want to go through an exercise just for a second. All right, I'm going to shut up and just look around wherever you are now and identify things that may fall, may become a projectile in the event of an earthquake.
All good here.
Yeah, I know this is definitely not something that we focus on in our preparedness actions here in Hawaii. Um, but as I read more and more about this subject, I'm thinking how important it is for us to, again, folks in California, they may be used to this. In fact, folks in California may be so used to the earthquakes that they become complacent. But earthquakes can be bad, and we might have a bad one.
Yeah. We got La Brea going on right now. The TV show, earthquake, stuff. I'm looking at right on top of my computer. I got challenge coins. I got a wall of pictures. All that stuff can come down very easily.
And not to say that you have to take it down or whatever, but it's just something to think about, something to be aware of. Okay.
I'd like to add that earthquakes can make noise. That one that we had in 2006 or whatever, I didn't understand that it was an earthquake because what I was hearing was a lot of noise. And I know this is absurd, but I thought maybe a helicopter had landed on our roof. I live on the top floor of the building, and I felt the shaking and heard the noise and thought, what's a helicopter doing on our roof? My husband was from the West Coast, and he said, I think this is an earthquake. So the noise is also something that I think we need to think about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, everything will be moving, everything will be shaking, and things will be happening, and it'll be chaos. People won't know what to do, but hopefully you can help yourself and then try to help them. And the idea is, even if you're not necessarily in the safest place, try to drop cover and hold on in your immediate area. Don't try to move to another room where you think it's safer, or go grab your things. Just drop cover and hold on, get to safety, and then you can take care of all that extra stuff later. Thank you, Anne. Which is a good segue into the natural. So this is transitioning into tsunami. Other than noise, like Anne mentioned, I don't know if there are natural signs of earthquake. Obviously, you can't predict earthquakes. And like I said, as I was doing my reading of this subject, it does talk about how folks just become complacent. Where, let me just share another story. So 2 Saturdays ago when we had that earthquake, I found out that it was an actual earthquake. I was on Facebook, and there's a couple of national CERT Facebook groups, folks nationally chatting about CERT best practices and things. Somebody posted a comment of, major earthquake on Hawaii Island, and apparently another person jumped on there, and they were on vacation. This person is a LAFD, LA Fire Department person, and an amateur radio person. And I said, I felt it on Oahu too. And this guy comes on and he says, are you guys doing any nets? And a net is really just getting on the radio and either taking check-ins, like getting folks to check in or whatever. I don't know if that makes sense. Just pretty much a meeting on radio. And this was about 30 minutes after the earthquake. And I had to tell the guy, oh no, sorry, so I hadn't planned on it. I didn't have my radio equipment. But that's one thing. I know some hams locally did it. But that's something for me to understand is, I'm complacent. Sometimes I don't carry a radio. Sometimes I do. But as a radio guy, especially a radio guy that's looked at as responsible for other radio folks, I need to have my radio, because the first thing I should have done when I realized there was an earthquake was turn it on, see if somebody else was calling for something, or if not, I should have jumped on and started a net, right? Taking check-ins and seeing, what people felt. Just a little personal story there. So earthquakes, not always. And the funny thing is, you'll hear it a lot in rumors and in the media, but if you listen to the scientists talk, there really is no way to determine if a tsunami will be generated from an earthquake based on its depth and magnitude. Okay. You could have a shallow earthquake or you could have a deep earthquake, but depending on its proximity to the coastline or if it's under the ocean, it could or could not generate a tsunami. So I find it funny when I see, really it's the Facebook land where people talk about, oh, it wasn't deep enough to generate a tsunami, or it was too far inland to generate a tsunami. Well, there are all kinds of conditions for an earthquake to generate a tsunami. So you can't just say, well, if it happened in Minnesota, well, I guess you could say, if an earthquake happened in Minnesota, we wouldn't get a tsunami here in Hawaii. But if an earthquake happened off the coast of Mexico, could we have a tsunami here? Well, it could be shallow or it could be deep. We don't know, right? We're not the experts. But the thing we can do is, we'll talk about it later, is what do you do if in the event of an earthquake? So earthquakes generate tsunamis, right? Tsunamis just don't happen on their own. There has to be something that creates a tsunami. And that could be the release of energies through an earthquake, or that could even be the collapse of an undersea cliff, or that could be, a coastline like the northern coast of Molokai fell into the ocean at one point, and that probably generated a tsunami. So it's not just earthquakes, it's also the collapse of landmass, okay? But this poster, I don't know if you can see it. You can, again, when I send the slides, you can click on the hyperlink to see it yourself. We've had this poster printed in the past, but I just share it now. These are the natural signs of tsunami. And I don't remember the story, and it's been a while for cert, but story goes in the, several years ago, there was a movie that was made off of it, the Indian Ocean tsunami that killed thousands of people. I believe that was the one where a little girl, Rodney, you know the story, you want to share?
No, Indonesia. That's what I
Okay.
know.
Yeah, the story goes, a little girl was vacationing with her family, and because she had had a talk in a class about tsunami, she knew the natural signs to look out for an approaching tsunami, and she was able to alert the other folks at the resort that they were staying at, and potentially saved other people. This little girl, let's say grade school age, maybe 10 or 12 or something like that. I really got to remember the exact story. But she recognized these natural signs. So the natural signs of tsunami are, you'll feel it. Big local earthquakes may cause tsunami, feel the ground shaking severely or for a long time. Now, a distant earthquake coming from Japan or Chile or the Aleutians, we may not feel the earth shake because it's too far away. But a locally generated tsunami, an earthquake that is locally generated would obviously shake the ground here, and that would mean that it was a locally generated tsunami, locally generated earthquake, most likely, but it could happen anywhere, most likely from Hawaii Island. If an earthquake were to throw you off your feet, right, no matter where you are in the world, whether Hawaii or someplace else, if an earthquake were to put you off your feet, and you're near a coastline, that is a natural sign for you to move inland. Okay, so Hawaii, we recognize that. With tsunami, you'll see the water receding, right? So you'll see the coastline, and the ocean will just recede, meaning it'll just pull back, and that's the tsunami wave, pulling all that energy from the ocean. And you might see fish flopping around, or you might see reef that you've never seen before. But that story, we know it near and dear to us in Lapuhoihoi on the northern coastline of Hawaii Island. The kids at a school from I think the 1947 tsunami, they went out and went to go pick up the fish that was just flopping around, unknowing that it was a tsunami that was coming. So the water will recede. Tsunami often came ashore as a wall of water and quickly flooding. Natural signs, like Ann said, tsunami. Anybody know how fast a tsunami travels across the ocean?
faster than a plane sometimes, or at the same.
Yeah, yeah. We often relate it to the speed of a plane. So if a earthquake were to generate a tsunami off the coast of California, how long does it take a regular plane, Hawaiian Airlines, to get from here to California? Maybe 5 hours. What is it? 4.5 hours, maybe.
I think 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah, for let's call it average 5 hours. That's how fast a tsunami could travel across the Pacific from California. Or I'll show you in another map. It's got the concentric circles of the estimated arrival times. But if you can just relate the speed of a regular airline, that is how fast that it can travel across the ocean. And tsunami is really energy just traveling across the ocean. Tsunami can also make sound, like Ann mentioned. Right, tsunami going as fast as a jet, it could make the same sound as it could sound like a jet's coming towards you. So roaring, it says here, it's kind of small. Abnormal ocean activity, a wall of water, and approaching tsunami create a loud roaring sound similar to that of a train or jet aircraft. If you see a tsunami, if you feel an earthquake, if you see any of these natural signs like the ocean receding or the ground shaking that'll throw you off your feet, it's always best to head inland. And if it's something major that it affects a lot of people, it's best to do it by foot. Because if a lot of vehicles are trying to get upland in a short amount of time, that's not ideal. So you might as well just head out by foot. And this is that map of the estimated wave arrival times. So Hawaii, obviously, anything within this concentric circle means an hour. So if something happened off Hawaii Island, creating a tsunami, potentially in less than an hour, that could reach us here in Oahu. So that's not a lot of time to activate all the emergency alert system and the wireless emergency alert. You might get a notification, but if it's strong enough to throw you off your feet, don't wait for the sirens or don't wait for something to come across your phone. I would just start heading inland. Like we said, if we follow this along here, so 7 hours, this line goes to, so if we had an earthquake around the ring of fire here that generated tsunami, we could see that tsunami coming within 7 hours. So we know from the earlier image, the ring of fire on this tectonic plate here, the closest landmass that could generate a massive tsunami could come from the Aleutian Islands. We call it the GAT, or the Great Aleutian Tsunami. That's why we kind of pay closer attention to all the seismic activity from the Aleutian Islands, because something happening here could be the closest, other than a locally generated tsunami, could be the closest from us, which would be about 4 to 5 hours coming towards Hawaii. I'll just throw in a personal note and I'll open the floor. Earlier this year, I think sometime between February and April, we had a tsunami watch. During the day, I think it was a regular work day. Tsunami watch came maybe 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. There was a earthquake, I believe, from this region. I can't remember specifically where, New Guinea or something. There was an earthquake generated here, and we had a tsunami watch here in Hawaii. And folks were scrambling because it'd been a while since we had a tsunami watch. I know we've had a couple so far this year. But people were kind of anxious about it. So conveniently enough, what I did was pull up a live stream at Pago Pago, Samoa, that looked out to the harbor there to see, you could see cars all headed one direction, right? They were all evacuating. But as I was watching this live stream and trying to find out when the expected time of a tsunami wave would have hit Pago Pago, wherever that is in this area, obviously, because they're between us, they would have been between us and the source of the tsunami, and nothing came. So obviously, there were a couple hours after them. So I kind of felt comfortable knowing that, okay, nothing would happen because there wasn't anything there. Not saying that that's the process that you should go through, but that was just kind of my comfort in pulling up a live stream video of a camera facing the ocean at Pago Pago. And because nothing happened there, potentially nothing was going to happen here in
Yeah, Pono. The year after they had their tsunami, I went there as a volunteer for the hurricane exercise, FEMA hurricane exercise, and they took us around and they showed us the high water marks and then the tsunami marks, especially down at the cannery, the tuna cannery site down on the bay. And it is dramatic to see what the damage that tsunami did when it came in. We were there for a hurricane exercise, but they were cleaning up after a tsunami the year before. And that was reality check for me that, these things, and it was moving. They said they had time to get out of the way. Most people did, but they had death and they had hospitalization, and they did have to have Red Cross. The Red Cross workers that lived there, they still had some traumatic PTSD in reference to what they had to deal with, along with the rest of the people there in America Samoa. So it's a reality check.
I know that year they got hit pretty hard. I think we did see evidence. There were videos of like Kailua Kona had waves coming over the wall there. But yeah, so is it convenient to have those signs of those places between us and where the tsunami might have been generated? At least it's kind of our early warning, right?
Yeah, if the buoys are active and working, they can save lives if they're up and actually working and not vandalized.
Yeah. So I know I kind of hit all over the place, but hopefully that was good information for you. Again, you'll receive these slides. I have to apologize because I literally put this together today. But these are, so you'll get these slides and you can click on all the hyperlinks. These will take you to all these preparedness resources and some of the response resources. So I just wanted to go through the process of an earthquake happened in the Aleutians right now. No, we're not calling this a tabletop or anything, but an earthquake happened in the Aleutians. We just got a notification. Let's call it a 8 magnitude earthquake, and we have a tsunami watch. Anybody want to share their experience, what they would be going through right now? So minus the preparedness actions, really. So we've got internet, right? Tsunami. Nothing's happened yet. We've got internet. Is there, I guess, an order of operations to how you would prepare yourself information-wise? Please don't all jump up and say you'll go to Facebook, because Facebook is not reliable information.
That's no weather service, Nixle, NOAA.
Okay, you kind of, do you have that mapped out in your mind, or is that just I mean, obviously you know what the credible sources are.
Yeah, they still come to my email.
Yeah.
If people are have an app, whatever it is, NOAA, etc., that they get the alerts on, it's great. You always have your radio available to stay informed, or go to the TV station and get the most up-to-date information. And then pull out your checklist if you have a checklist and go through it and make sure that you're prepared. We have bags prepared. We're not on the coast and we're not in the extreme tsunami zone. So we're just prepared if power goes out because of the power stations, etc. Then what are we going to do? Shelter in place? Then what are we going to do? We've got our bags ready to go to stay here, and we have them ready to go if we have to leave. And just practice once a year, twice a year is good to do, just to have it in the back of your mind.
Yeah. Checklist. I remember that one. Ralph, I saw you went out on your mic. You want to add anything?
Well, basically, if something major would happen, we will get activated. And I have an app for earthquakes, even within the near region. So my phone goes off. I open it up, I check out how deep it is and where it is. And usually if it's like only 20 miles deep, then I kind of watch it. If it's more than 100, I don't really worry too much about it. It depends on the intensity. And a lot of times I notice when I look at the geographical areas, it depends on which direction the energy will flow. And I have a small, not app, but a map of the regions. I'll find out which direction the energy went. So I keep an eye on that. Once I do that, I notify Linda. She has her packs on the side, but I have my car, which is overly burdened with ham radio equipment, but ready to roll out when I need to. Back to you, Pono.
Thank you, Ralph. Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind, and maybe I forget this part oftentimes, everybody's got their own situation. And Ralph, you mentioned something about being activated, and you may have to report to work. There may be sensitive equipment, or you may have to secure your property or whatever. So again, reiterating the fact that you need to be prepared, and like Rodney said, have stay-at-home kits, have deployable kits. You also have to consider, are you at home, or are there conditions requiring you to go to work? Or do you have loved ones that might be at school or daycare or whatever, right? You have to think about all the different variables about where you might be. So I know I'm personally, for me, I'm tied to my car. Without my car, I am useless. A lot of my things are dependent. That's why on a personal note, if I ever engage with you and you wanted me to jump in your car to go somewhere, I defer from that because I am so dependent on the things in my vehicle. So just a little personal note there. Yeah, but these resources are there for you to peruse if you're interested. Any ones that jump out. So the NOAA International Tsunami Information Center is a good one. The ITIC is actually located here on Ford Island. Although it is the International Tsunami Information Center, they've got a lot of great resources on earthquake and tsunami preparedness. I threw this one in here just if you want to understand the DART program, or the Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting of Tsunamis. So those are the buoys spread out all across the Pacific that'll capture the ocean movement, and obviously if there's a tsunami coming by. This is the City and County of Honolulu's Department of Emergency Management Tsunami Information. Let me actually go to this hyperlink. So if you go to their website, preparedness, know your hazard. So you can, these are the major hazards that we're concerned about, but we're talking about tsunami tonight. And you can go down here. So yellow pages in your phone book, if you still have a phone book, you receive it, they throw it in your driveway once a year. There's a section in your phone book that's got emergency preparedness or emergency plans for the county and the state. And it's also got maps in there that look kind of like this, but I'll pull it up. Rodney, you got one in front of you right now? It's rare that folks will pay attention to their phone book. I used to, every time we used to get them, and if I saw people throwing them out, I would rip them out, staple it together, and keep it in my kit. That's probably a good idea because I've become dependent on a computer, but computers may not always work, especially internet-based things. Your computer may work, but you may not be able to get on the internet. But if you went to the city's website and you click on this link, Oahu Tsunami Evacuation Map, it'll pull up to the City and County of Honolulu, and you can zoom in to all of these maps, and you can print them. Don't get too caught up on, oh, the line is on that street, so if I just stand on the Mauka side of that street, I'm okay. That's not the intent. Okay, the intent is, within these areas, if you're anywhere near them, to evacuate. For example, I'll show you where I live, since I don't want to put anybody else on blast. Here is Miley Beach Park, and I live here at the corner of this street. And whether it's tsunami or hurricane, I always leave the house anyways. I always pack up my car and I leave. So And you also should pay attention to waterways as well. So this is Mailiili Stream, or the stream below Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center. You know, the coastline's here, right? Coastline, Maile here, but this is a canal, goes up waterway. So potentially the ocean from tsunami could go all the way up to those higher areas. Waianae Mall is in this area, so on and so forth. Let's go down to Eva Beach. Not so bad when you get inland to like West Lock or Pearl Harbor. So for our Eva Beach folks, I think primarily folks live in this area, but even these coastal areas you got to watch out for, Rodney.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why part of the reason why they moved the tsunami warning center, other than it being 70 years old, is to get it somewhat more inundated, away from the inundation zone. Plus, that's one of the reasons why we had to move the Red Cross warehouse, which is in the inundation zone there on Westlock, and now we have it up at Waikele Tunnels. But when we had the last floods, those bridges that go down through the storage areas, they were flooded out. So we were lucky to be able to get to our storage, the tunnels, to get the cots, to get the other logistics items out. But if we had been there 12 hours prior, we might not have been able to get in to the tunnels to get the supplies. So it's important to plan as best as you can when you look at these things.
Good, yeah, good. Yeah, I don't often think about it, but Rodney's right. So the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, which is one of 2 tsunami warning centers for the United States, used to be located here in Eva Beach. So right on that that road fronting Eva. Obviously, in the tsunami inundation zone, they moved to Fort Island. You know, in this sort of area to the northwest of the Fort Island. So they're relatively protected. But you know, critical infrastructure, right? So Kahe Power Plant. Kahe Power Plant is coastline. We've got multiple power plants in the Camel Industrial area. We've got hospitals in urban areas. So you know what? In a perfect world, in a utopia, maybe if they thought about tsunami, maybe we wouldn't put things along the coastline. But things are on the coastline, and we're never going to change that. You know, there's projects. For example, Hawaiian Electric Company worked with the U.S. Army Garrison Hawaii, and now they have a power plant up at Schofield. That power plant won't generate enough power for the entire island if the coastline were to be wiped out by tsunami, but enough for critical infrastructure in central Oahu to be powered. So those kind of plans happen all the time. Let me go back to the slide. So sort of the response methodology, something that I would do. So earthquake happens, if you want to get information. So one source is the U.S. Geological Survey's website that you'll get the link for. You can pull up this map, and it's a nice map, shows all the tectonic plates. You can go to the layers feature, and you can click on a population density, a lot of population along the coastal areas, the U.S. faults. So, you know, fault lines other than the tectonic plates. You can even come in and change the style of the map. So you can see the different types of maps, even if you want to see satellite map. You know, those white areas identify coastal area or populated areas. But this is really a great tool. You can see real time earthquakes generated above a 2.5. Just another tool. This is the last one, probably the most critical one. If you like to pay attention, follow media, the media is getting their information here. So just a tidbit, whenever we share anything to our social media, or if I share anything via email, most likely I'll try to share it from the credible source, the source information. So rather than sharing a KHON2 news story, I'll share from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. So obviously right now you go to this dashboard, we have no tsunami warning, advisory, or watch or threat. Okay, but potentially everything would stack up here. And if you're subscribed to a lot of notification apps, let's say that these are all one event. So this was one earthquake that generated a potential tsunami. Well, you may see across your app, well, let me go to this. So let's say this was one earthquake that potentially generated tsunami. So generated from the Alaska Peninsula, so the Aleutians, okay? Off of that, multiple statements are created for different regions. So American Samoa, Hawaii, non-US, Canada Pacific information, and then Alaska, British Columbia, so the west coast of the United States. You may see across your phone all these information statements come out, and there may be different watches or warnings or advisories for different geographic areas, but you really got to pay attention to this one event. We're not in American Samoa, we're in Hawaii, so you want to go to the Hawaii information statement, and typically it'll give you, what the action is. A lot of the tsunamis we get, they're just tsunami information statements saying that an earthquake happened, maybe a tsunami was generated, there's nothing severe to worry about, okay? Because tsunami will always be generated from a coastal earthquake, but it may be small and not major. I don't know if I'm rambling or if I kind of led you through the process of understanding how to identify what information to look at. Under stress, if you are nervous about a tsunami coming, you may come to this website and not understand it, but that's why I share it, is because I frequently come to this website when I see something come across about tsunami, but you really have to pay attention to, this is a Solomon Island generated earthquake. Oh, shoot. I don't know if you're seeing this, but this was something generated from the Solomon Islands, but you have to look at the Hawaii information statement or the Hawaii watch statement, not the other geographic areas, because they might have different information. Hopefully that made sense. You will all get this slide deck. Hopefully that was relevant information. Transitioning, the last thing I wanted to share or discuss with the group this evening is part of the process for us to prepare as an organization is understanding how we communicate. Okay, I know this is kind of small. I've been trying to develop a notification system for the group, and I share this with you, and this is not final, and this is taking in all your suggestions. Maybe you've seen something already professionally done that we can adapt, but let's call this the Leeward Oahu notification system, okay? And the way this works is these are the intents for the type of notifications we might, as an organization, distribute to the community, whether that's routine, like meeting notifications or workshop notifications. We might do a test notification, like in collaboration with the once a month business day at 11:45 siren. We might send out notifications about an exercise. We may be doing a CERT exercise and we want to practice our communication activation. So we may send out exercise notices or alerts. This is one point of me asking for your recommendations, is alerts and emergencies, if there's any other nomenclature that you can identify. I was initially going to call this the LOINS or the LOANS, the Leeward Oahu Alert Notification System or the Leeward Oahu Emergency Notification System, but they're both different. And I say this because alerts in my mind is something's happening, you should be aware, but no action should be taken. Whereas an emergency is something's happening, you should be aware, you should start doing something. If you can think of better nomenclature for that, please let me know. But I didn't want to call it specifically the alerting notification system or the emergency notification system, because both I think are important for us to. And the only reason why I'm going through this process is because I want to identify a book for dummies for the way we distribute communications and the way we want folks to respond to the communication. So routine, let's say we're going to do a meeting next week. I'm going to send out an email. If you need to respond in this priority, whether email, text, or call. Okay. If it's an emergency, I'm going to send out an email. I'm going to send out a text message to alert you to check the email for more information, because obviously you can't send a lot of information over a text message. And if you need to respond, or if you need to confirm receipt of the notification, you send email or text. So I hopefully you understand that flow chart. I don't know if you think this is unnecessary. I think it is, because we're getting to the point where we need to organize ourselves in this way. But I open the floor.
I put a recommendation in the chat.
Leeward information operational notifications. I always like to work off of acronyms that are easy to Lions. I like Lions. If I'm being honest, wordy comes to mind. I don't know. I want to keep it simple, but I also want to keep it at its core what it is. But yeah, we're working off a given acronym. Yeah, because this loans. I don't know. Something that screams more emergency or priority, but yeah. Thank you for the suggestion. I'm sure this is not the first time anybody's discussed this. I'm sure it's not the last time. But I do want to formalize this process on Book for Dummies. So, because like Rodney said earlier, it's important to have checklists, because when things go bad, we may be so stressed where it might say email here. Well, what does that mean, right? So giving us a process of these are the instructions for what should happen in a checklist format.
I'll take a look at the Clean's emergency resource guide, because I know they took literally 15 to 20 drafts before they came back to Clean being Kapolei local emergency action network, other than the Campbell, which used to be the Campbell Industrial. So the resource guide is a pretty good resource, and I'll take a look at it and see what else I can come up with, other than Lions.
Good, thank you. Tehani put in the chat, I have to go through my DPIM toolbox. Yeah, would definitely appreciate any help. Yeah. My thinking going into this is for two purposes. This is for internal admin of the team and how the team will function. And this would also go into our overall plan, where if anybody picks up the plan off the street and is, hey, what are you guys doing? I want it to be comprehensive enough for somebody not a member of our team to pick it up and understand that this is the process. So plain language. I created the when I comp one, so let me get back to you on that. Okay, yeah, no problem. I've been thinking about how to visualize this for a very long time. Not to say that this is it, but any help would be appreciated. And other folks in the ham community that I've been working with over the last several months, they'll know that I'm not actually the content writer, so I don't actually write plans, or that's not me. But I think I've been pretty good lately about visualizing that in a graph or chart. Maybe not being able to write to explain it, but to visualize it, I think is easier, more comprehensive for people to pick up and understand.
And also, timing-wise, we're coming to the end of hurricane season, but we're not there yet. But when we do, we get into the rainy season, and they already have predictions for that being somewhat dry, somewhat wetter, or a lot wetter. So just being prepared for the rest of the disasters that might happen, localized disasters being the floods that affected us back in February and March. And that was very prevalent in North Shore-wise, and Hauula, et cetera, getting isolated again because of their bridge situation. And it could happen anywhere. and it often does. There's creeks everywhere that get flooded out.
And so communication is key, and we're definitely not looking at investing money into a system like Nixle or HNL.info. I don't think that's where we're at. But other organizations, Ralph knows this from DEM Races, you can send email to text messages so let me get all your phone numbers right now and all your service providers. So if you belong to T-Mobile, for example, what I can do is send in an email, I can send your phone number at tmobile.com or whatever it is, or your phone number at VerizonTech.com. It makes your phone number into an email where I can send it via an email, but you will receive it as a text message. So I've been playing with that. It's limited to characters, so the messages would have to be drafted ahead of time because many of them are limited to 160 characters, but others might be shorter. So a T-Mobile user may get 160 characters, where a Verizon user may only get 90 characters, and they miss half the message. For text messaging. Ronald is looking into Google Voice for us and seeing if Google Voice can do that. And that's why in these graphs, so you may receive the text message, but the text message is only subsequent to the email as a more so heads up that you should check your email, if that makes sense. So an email would go out first with all the content information, and then physically I would send out the text message after saying, hey, check your email, something's happening. Okay. The only problem about that email to text system is you cannot respond to the text. So that's why there's nothing for you to respond here. You would go to the email and respond to the email. Now, this is also heavily dependent on internet services where, we need to have redundancies. And that's, the other conversation, which will be next month's workshop, most likely, is implementing radio communications for this purpose. Just a side note, Rodney, I was hoping to get Sarah Smith from Salvation Army to do a workshop. I don't think she's on island anymore. I follow her on Facebook. I don't know if she's just traveling or it just seems like she did activate for Hurricane Ida, and then that ended, but it looks like she's spending a lot of time on the mainland. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know whether they've PCS'd or not. So I haven't been in contact with her since February, I think, was the last time she was doing support for the North Shore.
Yeah, I thought that would have been a good presentation, but if we can't get her, I can always fill it with something else. Or if there's any recommendations on anyone that wants to either give a presentation or have a recommendation for a subject matter expert to give a presentation, please feel free to make those recommendations. Yeah, you guys don't have to send me those now. I don't know if that is the way we're going to go. Now that Ronald's looking into Google Voice, maybe there's a different way. But eventually, if we do this email to text, I will be sending out a survey asking for your service provider. Ralph, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I use that. The thing is also DEM uses it through IO groups. So we do get a alert text of a warning or something going on, like a tsunami's not coming in, stuff like that from Jeff Sue. But in my personal note, I use my Gmail. I send it out like to Linda. She answers in text, and the only thing about that is she gets it as a 141, whatever the number is that they choose. And in order to answer back to me, she used the same link for that day and answer back, and I get it in my email.
Yeah, if you're using a service or a system, can you let me know what that is? Because I tried to do it the snail mail way or the way I described, and I was sending messages back and forth, testing with my email and my phone number, and it seems pretty good, but it's still limited. Again, not that we're going to pay for some kind of service, fancy service, but I'm just trying to find what's the easiest automated way for maybe I understand it, but if somebody had to administer the program, or if we had to get more buy-in from other partners in the community, I'm just looking for an easy, simple, automated way to accomplish this.
Well, there is a program called Telegram. I use it for my phone, and for one of our groups, we contact each other constantly through that. It's almost instantaneous, pretty much instantaneous. So you can have any number of people on that. I don't know how it is on a laptop or a computer, but it works great on a cell phone. Back to you.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah.
Is that a paid for or a free app?
Well,
Ralph?
it's a free app so far. I use the Telegram with our group, and we just discuss all kinds of events coming up in the main end or whatever's going on here, like that, and everybody gets on one time, and you get a little alert if something comes up on the text message. I use that for basically just a bunch of groups. So it depends how you set it up, and it's a free app through the phone. I don't know about iOS like Apple, but I do know for Android, I installed that. And another one I use for security is one called Signal. That one's kind of iffy, but it works pretty well.
Okay, it's still exploring. Again, trying to keep it as simple as possible so we don't have to tell folks to have to go download an app or whatever, but we'll figure it out. And we'll experiment and we'll get this solid, and then get it out to folks so we can actually start using it and testing it. Okay, with that, anyone else have any other questions, comments, or concerns? Again, I will send out a follow-up email. I don't know, this was kind of an informal workshop. I don't know if the recording will be beneficial to folks that did not attend, but I'll definitely share the slides with the links. Go ahead. Anybody?
I was going to say, take a picture if possible of what you're going to do at 10:21 tomorrow. Yeah. Drop, cover, hold.
Yeah, good reminder. Again, check out that website if you want to find out more information about earthquake or tsunami preparedness. With that, anyone else? Last final thoughts? I don't see any hot mics. Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting. Thank you all for attending tonight.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a great
Thank
evening.
you. It was
Good
very
evening. Good night,
helpful.
everybody.
Take care.
Adios.
Oh.
Take
Aloha.
care.